This is a damn it doll. A good friend of mine made this for me some years ago. And it basically is just some fabric sewed around some stuffing. And the purpose of the damn it doll is that you take your frustrations out on it. And it has been a half year of frustration and fear and anger. Damn it! Anyway, let's talk about the next assignment. So we built some pretty interesting foundation for our personal brands. I might need to lay off this stuff. It's just coffee. Good coffee, too. I want you guys to think more about your personal brands. You've thought about the social media stuff. You've thought about, your skills. You're writing up all this material. I think you're in the process of doing that now, even as I record this video. Now, what I want you to do next is I want you to take this to a little more of a formal direction. And this is going to build up to an actual research paper. But I'm going to split it into two parts. When I think of research, I don't like for you guys to do research based upon your own opinions. I actually wrote a chapter in a book about how unhealthy that is. The actual behavior is called power browsing. Most of us, and I'm looping myself in this category because for Lord's sake, I do it too. Most writers and researchers, when they go and they start the research process, they start with their opinion, right? You kind of start out with a general view of the world and you look for information that supports your opinion. You crank out a paper, and for the most part, you can earn a pretty good grade doing that. The problem is that leads to bad research and it leads to bad writing. This is because research is not supposed to be about strengthening your own opinions. It's supposed to be about discovering something new. You're looking at information, you're taking in information, and you're supposed to allow yourself to be swept up into it. I had a really good a teacher that I very much admire. I don't know if he's still in this world or not. It was a long time ago. And he actually gave me the opposite information when we were writing for a literary purpose. He was like, you want to know what you want to write about before you begin researching. That is not my favorite thing. I do not like that approach very much. Now, what I want you to do, and I'm going to try to make this pretty simple because we are going to split this assignment into two different parts. So we can kind of afford to sort of get into this very cold water slowly. I want you to think about the skills that you've outlined for yourself. And I want you to find information about those skills. Now, what exactly does that mean? There's a lot of options here when you start doing this research. I'm going to try to make this very job specific too. Let's say you're talking about your welding acumen. One of the first things that I would suggest would be to find job data. Where are the jobs? What do those jobs entail? How much do they pay? How long do they last? This is information that could be useful. You'll notice that I'm not necessarily gearing this up for any type of argument I want to make. I'm just looking for raw data. What is going on in the field of welding? Are there any innovations? Is hiring up? Is it down? All this stuff is perfectly legit for this information gathering phase of the assignment. Across all the jobs, you could look for similar things: cosmetology, marketing. The one field that I think is going to have a lot of interesting wrenches thrown at it right now is nursing and medical stuff. Everything is coronavirus right now, which is understandable. That is good stuff. Now, again, I want you to kind of sort of see where this information dive takes you. I don't want you going at this information with any type of goal whatsoever. We are simply diving into it. As far as suggestions for where you would go to find this information, that's actually kind of interesting too. Now, I'm going to open a discussion forum, and it's going to be Annotated Bib Discussion Forum. And what I want you to do this week is I want you to find 3 sources of information for some of the skills, and you can actually go in a lot of different directions at once. Let's say you're a welder, but you also have kind of a writing acumen, right? Those things are kind of very, very disparate areas, but some of my best writers have been welders. I don't know if I ever told you guys this. My father was a welder, and I like my welders for that reason. But let's say you have a writing acumen that you've been working on. Looking for information about writing and writing jobs and writing as an industry, writing as a field is a perfectly legit way to go. So you can just haphazardly mix those 2 skills together without working on connecting them in any way. We'll do that later. That's not what I'm concerned with right now. But I want you to share 3 potential sources that you found that could be useful for you. Now, off the top of my head, my first thought would be, I hate Google, but Google is kind of a necessary evil. Don't just say that you're getting information from Google. Look for the actual website that comes up when you type these terms in, when you type in your industry. Because I am almost 100% certain there is some type of a place on the internet where you can get information on welding. Now, this is a little political, but when my dad was working, he was a member of a Boilermaker union, which was mostly comprised of welders. I bet that they have a website, and I bet that there's some really interesting stuff on there, because the union wasn't just organized for strikes and stuff like that. The union also helped them find jobs, helped them figure out where things were, and there was a lot of services that were rendered through that. So even though that's kind of a political thing, it's still information that you could potentially use, even if it might have a little bit of a bias to it. On that note, do you think something like cosmetology has a political facet to it? Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Information, there's lots of information out there about the politics of cosmetology, the politics of hair and makeup. Like, I listened to a story from NPR the other day, and if anybody in cosmetology would like to follow up on this and just steal it, go for it. I'm going to try. I'll try to give you guys suggestions on stories you could steal to add to your research. India is wrestling with a skin whitening cosmetic obsession. Now that the Black Lives Matter movement has gained as much traction as it has here, there is a lot of interesting kind of stigma in India about skin tone and skin color, to the point that they have products designed to lighten your skin tone. And a lot of people in India have been using these products, and there's been a backlash against it. So that the actual ideal of beauty is changing. And it's a really interesting mode of conversation that's going on right now. I'll see if I can find that story, because that kind of stuff is, gold for conversations in your field and amongst your skill sets. So that's why I'm trying to tell you that this information gathering phase is extremely open, and there's a lot of different directions that you can kind of go in. So welders, I would focus on jobs. Medical, there's just so much coronavirus material out there. I don't know why my nose itches so much. Somebody's thinking about me. Have you guys ever heard that? If your nose itches, someone's thinking about you. Somebody really needs to stop obsessing over me right now. Anyhow, and then cosmetology, the beauty standards are extremely political. And there's a lot of discussion all over the world about that stuff. So this is kind of the stuff I want you to think about. Now, the main reason I want you to do this is not just to educate yourselves about what's going on in the world. If you'll remember, when I was doing social media posts, I kind of broke your legs on that a little bit, because one of the main things I would share, and I realized this like 2 nights ago as I was watching BoJack Horseman on Netflix. One of the main things that I would share when I was doing my freelance writing thing was news about the writing world. That's what I was sharing in my social media. If something would happen in the writing industry, whether it be strikes, whether a company was looking for writers, whether it was tips and tricks, all those things were one of the primary motivators of the types of content I would share on social media. This is what would fuel your social media. So I kind of left you guys in a little bit of a disadvantage on this. And so I was like, wow, I need to back up and, do this. Now, I'm not necessarily so worried about the annotated bibliography section of this yet. All I really want you to do for right now is gather the research. We've got about a month left of this class. And this month I really want to pace this out. So the last 2 weeks is nothing but you working on your paper, because I want you guys to write me a nice, good research paper as we move into the end. And this is kind of a good way to do it. So I'm going to kind of wrap this up here. For this week, I'm going to create an annotated bibliography discussion forum. And I want you guys to go out there, find some information that's pertinent on the skills that you have selected. And I want you to tell me about what's going on out there. Now, I'm going to ask for more. By the end of this annotated bibliography segment, we're looking at about 15 sources. You're going to need to find a lot. You're going to need to document them. But we'll worry about that later. I just want you to get kind of like your foot in the door and start thinking about what are some tactics you'll use to find this stuff. Where did my dog go? Oh, that's right. I threw him across my office. Y'all say a prayer for him, because he's about to get his brains bashed in. What's bothering me? Many things. Y'all have a good day.